Hi, I'm Jeanne Schumacher, founder of the Plant-Based Academy, where you can get the education, guidance, and support you need to be successful in a plant-based lifestyle. I'm here with Dr. Neal Barnard, president of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, founder of the Barnard Medical Center in Washington, D.C., and he has a new amazing book out called The Power Food Diet Book. Oh, this is great. And this book covers a breakthrough plan that traps, tames, and burns calories for easy and permanent weight loss. Why didn't I have this book a long time ago, Neal? Please. I mean, seriously. But thank you so much for taking the time to be with me here today.
Well, Jeanne, I'm delighted to do it. Thank you.
Well, in this video, we're going to look at amazing edible treasures that you're going to want to include in your lifestyle. And each one has specific properties that's going to help you to lose weight. So let's start off first. Harvard studies came up with these 6 top categories of food most associated with weight loss. What are they?
Well, it was really a cool study. Harvard has these very large cohorts where they've been following people, and they're medical professionals. Started out with nurses. They did the health professionals follow-up study, which was male health professionals. The physicians' health study, also males. And so they were able to combine all of these different cohorts of men and women. And they've got well over 100,000 people. Anyway, in this particular study, they tracked these people as the years went by. And they noticed something really amazing, that the more they ate of certain foods, the more weight they lost as the years went by. And so it wasn't that the more they avoided a food or whatever, which is kind of what you'd expect, but it was the more they ate of these foods, the more they increased their consumption of foods, the more weight they lost as the years went by. So at the top of the list was the humble, unassuming blueberry. Blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, berries, but particularly blueberries. So that was number one, and that was a very cool finding because there's some reasons why they should be there. Number two was a food group that was already in researchers' sites for a different reason, and that was the cruciferous vegetables. The cruciferous vegetables, that's broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, all their cousins, and they've been everybody's darling for lots of reasons. They're cancer fighters. Number three was green leafy vegetables in general. So you could put broccoli in that group if you want, but you can also have spinach, asparagus, and the whole range of them. Number four was melons. And that could be cantaloupe, it could be watermelon. By the way, pro tip here, people don't eat a melon. If they buy it at the store and stick it on their counter, it just sits there. And on about day 4, it's got little dents in it and they throw it away. So the pro tip is take that melon and as soon as you get it from the store, cut it up and put it in a glass bowl in your refrigerator in little chunks, and it disappears in like a half hour, because it's everybody's favorite snack food. Okay, number 5, group number 5 was the citrus group. And that was oranges, of course. It was grapefruits. But the surprise here was juice. People think of juice as not as good as the whole fruit, and they're right. It's better to eat the whole fruit. In the Harvard study, juice counted. The more you bring it in, the more weight you're going to lose. So we're gonna give a not guilty to juice, at least as far as the Harvard study goes. And the 6th group, Jeanne, this will not surprise you. Our pal, the legume, the beans, the peas, the lentils. They are such versatile foods. Of course, they're the highest fiber food there is, and so they're real appetite tamers. So those are the top 6. But one thing I do want to say about the bean group, it wasn't just the beans themselves. It was soybeans were included and soybean products. So I'm going to put soy milk or soy yogurt or whatever in that same category.
Excellent. Oh, wow. All my favorites.
Mhm.
And you're right about the cantaloupe and the melon because, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that just says summer right there. Like this big, juicy watermelon. Oh, let's talk spices. My husband is going to consider an intervention because, like, if I come home with any more spices, I have a whole wall full. I wish you could see my kitchen. Like I have four enormous spice racks on the wall with an inset shelf for containers like legumes and rices and things like that. I mean, obviously to make the food taste good because that's half the battle right there is when you like what you're eating, you're gonna eat it. So, but they also have specific health benefits, including, hopefully for weight loss. So let's talk about this powerhouse cinnamon. I mean, we talked about previously that a 2017 study showed that a teaspoon of cinnamon per day caused an average weight loss of about a half a pound a week. That's just amazing. And in the Journal of Food Chemistry in 2022, there was also published a meta-analysis combining the 5 results of these studies, concluding that this does work. So I'm a bottom line kind of person. At the end of the day, how is this working?
First thing to emphasize is that it is working. Because whenever I see these studies, I wonder, was it funded by the World Cinnamon Council or something like that?
Right.
And you can never, I don't think you can ever completely remove the effect of industry and economics and that kind of stuff. But I'm always looking to try to understand bias. And one of the things that we look for is consistency and results. And if we see that, that's encouraging, and that's what we did see. So then the next question is why? And the reason appears to be that cinnamon, cinnamon contains a chemical, a natural compound. It's not added to it. The cinnamon tree makes it, and it's an aldehyde called cinnamaldehyde, appropriately enough. And the cinnamaldehyde goes down your digestive tract. There's a receptor there that the cinnamaldehyde attaches to. The cinnamon goes down, attaches to that receptor, and then in your blood, you will notice a little increase in adrenaline caused by the cinnamon. And that increase in adrenaline boosts your metabolism for a good long while after the meal. So it's not huge. It's not, you're not going to have to get peeled off the ceiling, but it is a metabolic boost caused by the cinnamon. By the way, one quick pro tip here: Ceylon cinnamon is the one you want. I would encourage people not to choose. I mean, you can choose if you want Saigon cinnamon or Indonesian or China, or cinnamon from China. They're okay. They do taste really good, but they are not true cinnamon. They are cassia. So the true cinnamon is Ceylon cinnamon.
That is a good thing to know.
Mhm.
All right. Let's talk hot chili peppers. Ooh, that fiery sensation that gives my Mexican food that wonderful kick. What's going on here, and is that helpful?
It's a really common experience, sometimes regarded as unpleasant by some people that go to a Mexican restaurant. They love jalapenos, but they get a little bit too much, and you can feel it, it burns your tongue. Well, researchers have actually measured body temperature. And you can do this in a variety of ways. You put a surface probe on your skin. You can look at the eardrum. You might be familiar with this in pediatric populations for ways of measuring their temperature without making them cry. So this is what researchers have done. And what they find is that when you have hot peppers, your body temperature goes up. And what this is an indication of is that the peppers trigger thermogenesis. They trigger the production of body heat. So that means nutrients are not going to fat, they're going to heat. So the calories just evaporate. The mechanism is due to what are called capsaicins, or there's a broader category, capsaicinoids. It's a whole range of compounds, and that's what makes them hot. That's what also causes thermogenesis. So knock yourself out. The effect lasts about an hour. There's a secondary effect too. They do seem to reduce appetite a little bit. I mean, because you've eaten it, you don't feel a need to overdo it. You don't have to have thirds on a jalapeno. So it's a cool thing. And I got to tell you, Jeanne, when I was a kid growing up in North Dakota, there was a Mexican restaurant on Main Street that had a jalapeno burrito that was just short of life-threatening. And that was my favorite food growing up.
Oh, there are some good ones. Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, what about my green, yellow, orange bell peppers? Because I love eating from the rainbow. Are these going to work too?
They're good. A green pepper is good. A poblano pepper is tasty, but its benefit is that it's a plant. It doesn't have it has very little fat in it. It's got some fiber, it's got some vitamin C, but it also doesn't have that zip. It does not burn your tongue, and that means it will not induce thermogenesis. To get the thermogenesis, you do have to have the capsaicins. Bell peppers don't have it. So you have a jalapeno or a habanero or the ghost peppers. Check your life insurance policy.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, the hotter it is, the more of this effect you get. It is like a medicine, and it's real. So it relies on hot pepper.
Yeah, those ghost peppers. Ooh, you better.
Careful, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
a
Be careful. Be
little,
careful.
little goes a long way,
Be
right?
careful. And I should say, you don't have to do this at all, if you don't want. I mean, there's a million power foods. Cinnamon is one, ginger is one. There are the whole range of spices have them. But if heat is your thing, you take that Mexican meal and instead of emphasizing the queso, the lard, those are the things that interfere. Focus on the parts of it that love you back.
Yeah. Well, is it better because to get these capsaicinoids, if like you're not a person who likes that, can you get them in a supplement form, or is it just better to eat the peppers?
There are people ready to sell you everything, but no, I would do it as the pepper. Yeah, why not? Exactly, and you can have as much or as little as you like.
There we go. Well, you do find, other hot, like in Indian curries, like Italian sauces, sriracha. Oh my God. True Made Foods makes this vegetable sriracha that is the cleanest I've ever seen. I mean, and then you've got dishes from China to North Africa. Is one better than another spot in terms of spices? Is it the spicier, the better?
So, the spices run a huge range, and some people will even include things like garlic, which is not technically a spice, but we tend to think of spices as anything that's got a really strong flavor packed in a little package. Use them; they're fine. Part of it is that some of them do have medicinal effects, like the capsaicinoids or the cinnamaldehyde that we've discussed. The other thing is that they often guide you to foods that you love in a good way, because it's that little bit of zip that makes that humble, say, a lentil soup or that bean burrito or that veggie stir fry. That's what gives it a little crown that culinary experts feel proud of presenting. So I think it's fine to adorn them this way, and there's nothing bad in there.
Well, ginger. Let's talk ginger. Oh,
Yeah.
so good. What are the hell? I mean, apart from the taste, which is like phenomenal, what are the health benefits for us, especially for weight loss?
Well, ginger contains a compound that, although a ginger root looks nothing like a jalapeno pepper, but the compound there's an active compound in ginger, which has been sort of uncreatively called gingerol. When botanists study these things and they work with biochemists, they really come up with these rather dull names. I think they should name them after their friends or their dog or something like that. But gingerol was the best they could come up with. Gingerol, if you ever had a little too much ginger in a recipe, you'll notice it's a little bit pungent too, or sometimes a lot pungent. I mean, just put a whole bunch of powdered ginger on something and try to eat a teaspoon of it. It's too much. It is a cousin of the capsaicinoids in peppers, and it does have some of the same effect. And researchers have looked at this, and in meta-analyses, where you put the data from a variety of studies together, ginger is associated with weight loss too. So I think that part of that could be attributed to the fact that, I mean, what are we using ginger on? We're putting it in healthy foods. Oftentimes, you can sprinkle it on your tofu and make it extra good. But also, it does seem to have an actual biochemical effect in the body.
Oh, wow. It's so good. Oh, and I
Mhm.
keep pro tip here. I when I find ginger or turmeric, I buy it and I cut it up into chunks because I throw it into my smoothie and I put it in the freezer. Or I'll just keep it in large pieces and then that makes it easier. First of all, it lasts forever in the freezer, but then I use it when I'm grating, for a stir fry or whatever, and I'm adding it on, but it just makes it easier when it's frozen like that. And then it lasts forever. So,
That's a cool thing. There's something to be said for using chunks of ginger rather than a powdered ginger, because let's say you're flavoring a soup or something like that. You can put in chunks and you can fish them out again when you've decided you've got the right amount. If it was a powder, you can't remove it. One thing that some people like to do is they will grill tofu in the morning for breakfast. It's really high in protein. Unlike bacon, it doesn't have any animal fat in it. It doesn't have any cholesterol. And so you grill up your tofu, nonstick pan, little thinly sliced tofu, brown it well on both sides, then sprinkle on a little nutritional yeast, a little bit of ginger, a little bit of soy sauce, And you'll find you can get really hooked on this. And the other trick is that these high protein plant foods are also mood stabilizers. If you're a person who gets a little moody during the day, don't take my word for it, just try it. Start your day, have the first thing you eat be a plant protein, tempeh, like a grilled tempeh or grilled tofu, and you'll discover that it tends to keep you on an even keel. The reason, by the way, is that it blocks the production of serotonin, which makes people sleepy, but also makes them kind of grouchy sometimes if they're trying to get through their day.
All right. Well, that's a good tip to know.
Mhm.
Let's talk about berries. They're my new crack, honestly. I mean, we had growing up, we had blueberry bushes in our yard. We had several different species of blueberries in our yard. And oh my gosh, is there nothing better than going out and picking them right off the bush and biting into this big sun-kissed, totally ripe blueberry? Oh, so good. Talk about the benefits of these magical fruits.
Blueberries are a terrific thing. I have to confess, I did not really appreciate blueberries much growing up. In Fargo, we didn't have, it wasn't the local thing. And yes, they'd be in muffins. And I thought, a blueberry muffin is really tasty. Although we would heat them up and then slather them with butter and make them, practically inedible. But one day I was out doing a good long run. And for some reason, after I finished and I mopped off my sweaty brow, there was some blueberries there. And I ate a bunch of them. And I ate more and I ate more. And I found there was something magical and restorative about this blueberry. And I've eaten them ever since. And so now what I'll do is I'll take my morning oatmeal or something like that, and I'll put them on that, or I just find excuses to put them on things. Anyhow, the blueberry is great for what people have praised them for traditionally, is that although they do have natural sugars and natural carbohydrate, it happens to be quite low glycemic index. So it tends not to spike your blood sugar. Even our low carb friends say, okay, the blueberry, we will grant that, great status for good reason. But the big thing about blueberries now that, for the past 10 years or more, the big spotlight has been on anthocyanins. Anthocyanins are the purple color in a blueberry, and there are other anthocyanins that are reddish in a strawberry, for example. The anthocyanins are biochemically active. They probably work within your gut as well before you ever think about absorbing them, but they're a powerful antioxidant and seem to be associated with weight loss.
Oh, and delicious. Just want to point that out. Delicious. Oh,
Very, very delicious. And if anybody travels very much, go up to Canada, try their blueberries, get the ones in Massachusetts, get the ones in Europe. They're a little bit different. They're a little different varieties, and you'll see.
I love the Trader Joe's. They have the organic wild blueberries from Maine. Oh, so good. And I throw that in my smoothie every day. So
And I'm glad you said organic. That really matters with
yes.
berries, because you're not going to peel away you're not going to remove the peel.
No, and
And if there has,
it
yeah.
concentrates the poison. So
Yeah, I mean, if you spray them, the surface chemicals can be easily removed from an orange or from a banana because you're going to peel it, but from a blueberry, that's not going to happen. So organic is well worth it.
it is. Well, let's talk apples and pears because, like, Honeycrisp. Oh my gosh. Is there anything better on this planet? I mean, or perhaps a ripe pear. It just melts in your mouth. Oh my gosh. These are like two of my favorites, but they're incredibly sweet. Lots of natural sugars because, like, you can just taste them, like, as you're eating it. And I could eat fruit all day for sure. Is that going to have an impact on weight loss with all that sugar in it?
It will affect your weight, but in a way you might not be expecting. First of all, the neglected pear. Let me praise it for another reason. You take a pear, and it might be a little greenish, might be a little yellow, but around the stem end, you may see a little bit, or frankly, it could be anywhere on the pear. You'll see a little bit of reddish blush on it sometimes. That's anthocyanins also. And so, okay, that's a hint of things to come, meaning pears might be good. When you and I grew up, apple a day keeps the doctor away was the first thing that everybody learned about food. But then the low carb killjoys came up and said, don't eat an apple because it's got sugar in it. And they're right. It does have sugar in it. Fruits have sugar. They do. And so they said, don't eat them. And don't eat apples, don't eat pears, don't eat oranges, don't eat bananas, don't eat fruit at all. They were sort of banished. And to this day, you'll hear people say, well, I don't know. I don't want to have a lot of fruit because it's got a lot of sugar in it. Okay. Researchers put that idea to the test. And they brought in a group of people. I said, I want you to eat apples every day, and we're going to see what they do to your weight. Eat pears every day, another group. We're going to see what they do to your weight. Don't have one. Don't have two. You got to have, nobody does this, but in research, they said have 3 fruits every single day, 3 pears, Monday, 3 more Tuesday, 3 more Wednesday. This is research. We're going to really see. And what happened? They didn't get any weight. They lost weight. And here is why. You're eating a fruit that's high in water, high in fiber, high in sugars that happen to be low glycemic index. They don't spike your blood sugar. It's kicking other stuff out of the way because it happens to be very filling. And so you're going to lose weight as a result of it. This is a power food. So I'm encouraging people to eat it. And the other thing that really has to be said, if we haven't rehabilitated apples enough yet already, the natural fruit, sugar, is what your body was designed for. And this goes back since before we were humans. Great apes of all kinds, including our distant ancestors and our chimpanzee cousins, they love fruit. It's the #1 food they eat, and their bodies respond to it. The natural sugars from fruits are the favorite fuel for your muscle cells. So the more you eat of them, the more you've got energy, and you can do things you want to do. Your brain gets the sugar it needs, and you're not going to gain weight from it.
Awesome. Oh, well, let's talk mangoes and papayas. I lived overseas in Central and South America for 13 years and like totally indulged in mangoes and papayas. I mean, so good when they are ripe. Oh, and they're low in fat, high in fiber. They get good carbs. And the best part, despite how sweet they are, they have a low glycemic index, which, the natural sugars enter your body slowly without spiking you, that sugar high, sugar low. Talk about the benefits of these amazing fruits.
Mangoes are delicious. And by the way, in Power Foods Diet, I have a mango dal, dal, D-A-L, as in lentils from India. Ah, out of this world. I mean, it's so great. But anyway, mangoes are great. Papayas are great. The first thing you notice when you open them up is they're orange. And that is beta carotene, the yellow orange kind of color. That's beta carotene. Same thing as in a carrot. And beta carotene has been tested in a placebo-controlled structure and is found to be associated with weight loss. And that has not been a big shock now that researchers have been looking at antioxidants. We know they're cancer fighters, but we're starting to see anthocyanins, beta carotene. We're starting to see this theme that they seem to keep our weight control machinery working well too. By the way, I got to confess, I was late arriving to the mango party. In Fargo, we weren't, mango was not our thing. What can I say? And so when I started eating mangoes, I got this mango slicer. And it was a little thing that you would put over the mango and it would go down and knock the pit out. But then I discovered you don't need a mango slicer. You need a sharp knife. And you just cut along one side of the pit, cut along another side of the pit, and then you take that half of a mango and you put it down a glass so that you take a glass and the peel goes on one side of the glass and the pulp goes on the inside of the glass, and bang, it goes in, and in 5 seconds, your whole mango is peeled. You just slice it up. It works really well. Ordinary drinking glass, sharp knife. Your mango is sliced in 25 seconds.
Did not know that. Who knew?
Oh, yeah. It works really great.
Cooking
Works
tips
really,
with
really
Neal.
great.
Okay.
Oh, and papayas, same story. In Power Foods Diet, I do describe how to cut open a mango, because people do all kinds of sad things to mangoes. They cut them in sort of dices and turn them inside out. And I mean, you can do all that if you want, but use my glass method; it'll change your life. And with papayas, same story. There are easy ways to cut papayas.
Oh, all right. Good to know. Thank you. Cooking tips with Neal.
You bet.
Let's talk bananas. Ooh, I adore them. And I had when I lived in Honduras and I had several banana trees in my yard, which were incredible. I mean, the tree grows like 2 stories in like 6 months. It's like incredibly fast growing. And then it produces this enormous bunch, one enormous bunch of bananas. That's it. And then the banana tree dies. And then you cut it back, cut it down, and then it grows back. It's just
Yeah.
incredible. They're like the perfect food, nicely packaged. It's the great afternoon snack. I mean, I use them in baking to give moisture to muffins and breads. I use them as the base of my fudgy popsicles. And let's not forget ice cream. I mean, please. It's such an incredible fruit. Talk to us about this.
Bananas are terrific. It's yes, for all the reasons you gave, they're terrific. They don't have cholesterol, they're high in fiber, they've got really good restorative complex carbohydrate. So you just went out for your morning athletics. It's a really restorative food. And if you ever need to be convinced about them, just compare them to a candy bar or something like that. Calories much less, no fat, really great. And the one nice thing I'd like to say about a banana is that unlike other fruit, you will see them at even the cheapest convenience store.
Yes.
They're there. Pick through them. They may not be organic, but you can peel away the peel. So, they're still okay. They cost pennies. Yeah, really underrated fruit.
And you're right, because we travel somewhat and we stop at these stores and you see a bunch of bananas just hanging on the counter and it's like, perfect. It doesn't
Yeah,
get much better.
buy 4 or 5. I mean, you should stock up, have them on hand. When hunger calls, have them, share them. Good food.
Well, let's talk about fruit in general and weight loss, because I adore all fruit. I mean, like seriously. But is there any fruits that would interfere with weight loss and should we stay away from when we're trying to lose weight?
Okay, I'm going to break your heart here. Not yours, but
No, you're
everybody who
going to.
everybody who ever loved guacamole. I got to tell you, I love guacamole too. But nature celebrates April Fool's Day too. And what it did on April 1st, I'm convinced, is it came up with the avocado, which avocado it's a fruit. Unlike virtually every other fruit, it is really, really high in fat. So that means it will fill you up, but by the time you are full, you have taken in a lot of calories. Now, it's much better fat. It's mostly what we call monounsaturated fat. That's better than, say, dairy fat or beef fat, which has quite a lot of saturated fat, the one that raises your cholesterol. Monounsaturated, it's not going to raise your cholesterol. It's sort of innocuous. Calorie-wise, it's calorie bomb. So when people in our research studies are not losing weight, we say, write down everything you've eaten, and we go on a search and destroy for avocados as well as nuts and seeds because it's just the fat content that they pack in. It makes weight loss really hard. One other I got to tell you, if that wasn't heartbreaking enough, coconut is really kind of resurged in popularity, and people are taking coconut fat and putting it into all kinds of things. You simulate cheese with it. It has that buttery mouth feel, and it has that buttery mouth feel for a really bad reason, which is that it's very high in saturated fat. It is as bad as lard. Now, there's no cholesterol in it. That's great, but it will not only stop your weight loss cold, it will spike your cholesterol, specifically your bad cholesterol is going to go right up. That's true of coconut oil. It's also true of palm oil. So I would encourage you not to eat them. And they are heavily promoted. You'll buy a jar of peanut butter. Look at the label. You would have thought all you needed to have in that jar was peanuts. They add palm oil to it. Explain it. Well, it's got a more creamy mouthfeel, and it does. But palm oil, coconut oil, they both raise your cholesterol. So sorry to say it, avocados, not bad for your cholesterol, bad for your waistline. Coconuts, bad for both. Coconut milk, don't buy it. You buy the soy milk, buy the almond milk, buy the rice milk. Don't get the coconut milk.
Well, even I found rice milk has oils in it too. They add oils. So,
You'll see it with oat milk also, and they do it for mouthfeel.
right,
You do not it's entertainment. It's not nutrition.
right. Beans. Let's talk about beans, those magical fruit. And I'm not gonna lie, the winds do blow in the Schumacher household. I'm not gonna lie, just saying. But the beans and rice were staples of my time living in Central and South America, and there's so many different types of these. I mean, there's navy beans, black-eyed peas, zuki, mung beans. I mean, so many. Let's not forget, the chickpeas, the lentils, the soybeans. Talk to us about these amazing legumes.
Every culture has its own bean. Italy, chickpeas. Japan, soybeans. The Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, black beans. Other parts of Latin America, maybe more pinto beans. They've all got their favorite. Use them. And if you're new to them, and if they cause digestive upset, just scale back, have a smaller amount, and cook them well. There should be no al dente beans. They should be really, really soft. Some people sprout them. That's okay too. But have at them. You can make a black bean soup that is just so awesome and hearty and delicious. Bean burritos, they're all great. The big one in the Power Foods diet, the one recipe that I think is more surprising to people than any other is what are called black and blue brownies. And I'm not making this up. They are brownies that are made with a little bit of black beans. And a lot of bakers are doing this now, where they discover you put some beans in there. Somehow the beans sort of disappear in the cooking process, but they give it this really nice mouthfeel and sort of what's the word? Sort of just a savory kind of juiciness. That's not the right word, but you get the idea. The other thing, they're called black and blue brownies. There are blueberries in there. Not a lot, but they are in there. Try them. You're gonna absolutely love them.
Oh, I can't wait to try that. Black
Yeah.
and blue brownies.
Yep.
All right. Well, what is your favorite legume dish?
I already gave it away. I got to tell you, when we were talking about the Mexican restaurant in Fargo, North Dakota, it was on Main Avenue in Fargo, and they got started when I was in high school. And I went in there and I got the jalapeno burrito, but the actual basis of it was not jalapenos. It was refried beans. And so it was beans. Then they put in all the kind of jalapenos in a flour tortilla, cooked it at 600 degrees, and put a gravy on top, and it was just unbelievable. So I was 16 years old at the time. Okay. Later on, go to medical school, complete my residency, go back to Fargo, and I think I can't eat that anymore because it's probably filled with lard. So I sat down with the owner and I said, I want to go through all the ingredients on it. It turned out that they never added lard to the beans. And the gravy was a vegan, plant-based gravy. The whole thing was vegan, except if you wanted cheese, they would sprinkle cheese on top. So that is to this day, if you're in the Midwest, it is worth the trip to go to Fargo and go to the Mexican Village and order their #2 burrito. That is the jalapeno special, filled with vegan refried beans. They've always been that way. They never had lard. And it's absolutely delicious. By the way, can I say a word to all my friends who are running Mexican restaurants and are thinking that there ought to be lard in the beans? The argument goes like this. You'll hear them say this. That's the traditional way. Traditionally we had lard, and some people are leaving it out because they're trying to be health conscious. Let me tell you something. Beans have been raised in Central and South America since time immemorial.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody added lard until the Spanish arrived with pigs, and then they put them in there. And Europeans arrived with cows and introduced cheese into a planet that never had dairy products at all. These are Eurocentric additions to a traditional Latin American food that never had it at all. Keep your beans clean, keep that lard out.
Excellent. Love to hear that. I have to share mine. Mine is the Mexican lasagna that I make. And I think we're on week, I don't know, 498. Because I'll say to my husband, what do you want this week for lunch? Mexican lasagna. I'm like, I can make other things. He's like, no, I like it. Next question. We have it
Yeah.
all the time. So I take a little, and this is a really crazy easy dish because you just take the salsa. You can make your own salsa, but I just get some, whatever I can find, the lowest amount of sodium in there because they traditionally do have a lot of sodium. And then I put that, and then Trader Joe's has a salt-free corn tortilla. I put that next. Then I take beans, 2 cans of beans, whatever kind you like. and I put them in a food processor and make them creamy, and I add a little bit of the salsa to it to make it like flow nice, make it really creamy. And then I put that down as a layer, another layer of tortillas. And then they have this corn salsa, which is a tomato-less salsa, which is so good. I put that on as the next layer, another layer of corn tortillas, another layer of salsa, bake it, 350, I don't know, 45 minutes. And that makes, in a glass dish, 6 portions right there. That's 6 lunches for my husband. Done. Easy. So anyway,
That is so great. And when you keep it, it's even better the next day. So that is wonderful. By the way, I'm glad you mentioned that, because sometimes people listening to the way we're talking, they'll think, I've got to cook all these foods. I've got to become a chef, and I don't want to do that because it's so much work. But you just mentioned the fact that you can use some pre-made products. It is so easy. And when Dustin and Lindsay and I were working on the Power Foods diet, Dustin Harder, Lindsay Nixon are the recipe developers. We made a deal. We wanted to make sure that nobody had to be a really experienced chef. I mean, if you are, I mean, that's great. You'll enjoy the recipes. But I wanted them to be really fast. And we put them in 3 categories. There were ones that we called easy. Those are things that you would do a little bit in the kitchen. You have to assemble things and do a little bit of preparation. We had some we called elegant. They weren't really hard, but that's where you put a little bit of confectioner's sugar over the French toast, or add a little mint leaf, or that kind of thing. So there were some elegant ones. But we had a 3rd category. In addition to easy and elegant, we had what we called convenient foods. And that's where, I mean, you literally, like, where's my can opener? That gets it done. I want people to realize, if convenience is what you do, if you're buying pre-prepared things, or you're eating at fast food or whatever, I want to come to you, and we're going to figure out your choices where you are. So a can of salsa, fine. Look at the jars, look at the label, pick the one, as you said, lowest in sodium. Fair enough. There are a million choices. You're going to find the ones that work for you. Cooking beans from scratch, great. I love it. To tell you the truth, I kind of prefer that. But a can of beans, great. That works fine. Keep them in your bomb shelter. You're going to need them. So, yeah, exactly. So the convenient foods work really well.
but also too, I mean, I batch cook. So people think I'm in the kitchen all the time. It's like, no. I batch cook like on the weekends, especially when I was working full time. I would batch cook on Sunday. I call it shop, chop, prep. So on Friday, grocery shopping with my list of what I'm going to make for the week and all the ingredients I need. Then Saturday is prepping the vegetables, and then Sunday is cooking. And so I break it down so I'm not in the kitchen all the time. And then I'll make 3 or 4 or 5 dishes, and then freeze some, and they're in the freezer. And then I just pull them out, and I have what's called a mini hot logic, which is amazing. It's this warming tray. And my kind of technology, you plug it in, it's on. You unplug it, it's off. I like it. And that goes in the car, by the way. So when I'm traveling and driving, I'm heating up my food at the same time. So it works out.
That is brilliant. And if you get pulled over by a cop, you can feed him lunch.
There you go. There you go. Works. Well,
That's great.
let's talk soybeans, because I think they've gotten a pretty bad rep, because people have been warned off. Oh my God, you can't have soy, you can't have that, especially men and cancer patients. It's like, oh my God, it's estrogens. Share, please. Let's put this one to bed. Let's put this myth to bed. What are the insights and health benefits of soy?
Yeah, well, researchers did put this to bed a long time ago, but where the mythology started, soybeans are extremely popular. Needless to say, they're a traditional part of Asian cuisine, extremely versatile. I mean, you can turn them into soy milk. You can turn them into miso soup. You can turn them into sausage. You can turn them into a veggie burger. You can turn them into bacon. I mean, one day they're going to make snow tires out of soy. I mean, it's an amazing. I mean, you can do anything. It's so incredibly versatile. However, researchers did discover back practically a century ago that soybeans contain isoflavones, which attach to estrogen receptors. Their names are genistein, daidzein, glycine, and they do attach to estrogen receptors. And so that freaked everybody out, because they thought, well, estradiol, the female sex hormone in a woman's body, attaches to estrogen receptors. And if she's got too much estradiol, it is associated with cancer. And that's true. You got more estradiol, higher cancer risk. Okay. So it turned out that that was not true of soy. Researchers would look at people who ate a lot of soy. They would calculate their isoflavone intake. It was really, really high. And I'm talking about a person living in Asia, or maybe an Asian American who brings her culture with her. They're eating lots and lots of soy. Their risk of breast cancer was going down about 30% or more if they ate a lot of soy. So that's the opposite of what people had thought. The high soy was associated, in fact, with very low cancer risk. And also for women who had had a cancer diagnosis. They were diagnosed with breast cancer and they eat a lot of soy, their risk of recurrence goes way down. So this is the opposite of what people had thought. So we now know the reason. The reason appears to be that although estradiol attaches to what we call the estrogen receptor alpha, there's a second estrogen receptor called estrogen receptor beta. That's where the isoflavones preferentially attach. Alpha is the gas pedal of lung cancer, beta is the brake, so to speak. So the idea is, if you're avoiding soy, your cancer risk is higher. If you're adding lots of soy, your cancer risk is lower. That's true for women. It's true for men too. We're seeing it with prostate cancer. Soy does not cause man boobs. This is kind of the locker room idea. The guy says, oh, that soy causes man boobs. What he means is breast enhancement. You can disprove this. Go to the beach, hot August day. Chunky guy's pulling off his t-shirt. He's got a little bit of breast enhancement. Go right up to him and ask him, how much soy have you eaten this week? How much tofu have you been having this week? He'll say, tofu? I don't eat tofu. What are you talking about? I eat cheeseburgers. That's my thing. Pizza. I'm an all-American kind of guy. The reason that some men get breast enhancement is because they gain weight from eating cheese and meat and fatty foods. As they gain weight, their fat cells contain an enzyme called aromatase that converts testosterone into estrogen. The more body fat you have, the more estrogen you're making. That causes breast enhancement in a man. Go on a vegan diet, you start losing the weight, that breast enhancement is going to go away. Soy never caused breast enhancement. It is not, let me put it this way. It is not the reason for breast enhancement. That's all due to overweight.
All right. We put that one to bed.
There you go.
All right. Let's talk about rice. It's long been a staple of the world's slimmest countries, and it's easy to make. I mean, especially with the Instant Pot, please. I mean, you put it in, you walk away, and you come back and it's done. And you can add fresh herbs and cloves and dried fruit and peas and so good. What's the difference between white rice and brown rice? Is one better than the other?
Brown rice is better. What makes it brown is the little tan coating. That's where the fiber is. Now, that said, white rice is not poison. Many restaurants, white rice is all they have. Fair enough. If you're eating it, reassure yourself that when Japan was at its thinnest, longest lived time in history, white rice was their staple. So brown's better, white rice is okay.
You mentioned something about it trapping calories. Talk about that.
Yeah, this was the Tufts University study, 2017. They found that the fiber in whole grain breads, but also in rice, will, as you chew it up, it turns into 1 million little particles that are effectively sponges that pick up unabsorbed calories and carry them out with the waste. So with rice, it works really, really well. And by the way, for anybody who ever tried to cook brown rice and it came out like wet newspapers, which is sometimes the way it is, let me tell you how to cook rice. Take brown rice and start with choosing the right one. Choose a short grain brown rice, like Lundberg, for example. Take it home, put it in a pan, maybe a cup of brown rice. Wash it a little bit. That just gets whatever dust was on it out. And then drain it. You've now got wet, damp rice in a pan, but no extra water. Put that pan on your stove, turn up a good high heat and stir it dry. That'll take you about a minute, maybe 2 minutes. Stir it dry. You'll start to discover a little aroma is coming up because you're toasting the rice. You're not making popcorn. Don't do this for like 10 minutes. Just do this for a minute. Now, you've got sort of rice starting to crackle in the bottom of this dry saucepan. Now add 3 parts water to every 1 part of rice. And you're going to say, no, I don't want to do that. The recipe says 2 parts water to 1 part rice. No, we're going to cook it like pasta. Extra water. Set a timer for 40 minutes or thereabouts. Test it, and if it will develop this nice. It'll be soft, but it'll have a little tiny bit of crunchiness left. And when it is done, stop, pour off the extra water, just as you would with pasta. Don't cook it until all the water's absorbed. You got the best rice you ever had in your life. So the things, toast it first, cook it like pasta second. Going to be beautiful.
Awesome. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
I
Works
always learn
great.
something. I always learn something from you. Always.
Well,
But
all these things, every tip I ever knew or ever acquired is in the Pop Foods diet. So it's all in there. Give it a try. You'll
it
see.
is. But
Yeah.
I have heard about arsenic and the levels in rice. Where is this arsenic coming from? Is it in all rice? Is what the health risks? What's going on here?
No, it's really a Southern U.S. thing. The timber industry, rice grows rice grows on the ground, and what used to be on that ground before, whatever polluted that ground is going to leach pollutants into whatever you grow on it next. So arsenic is one of the pollutants that you've seen left over from timber and some other things. That's the issue, and the concern is that arsenic is a carcinogen. The good news is researchers have looked for links between rice consumption and cancer rates. They don't find them. It doesn't. So whatever amounts that people are getting, it does not seem to be a problem. That said, when you cook it in the method that I just described, you got leftover water. When you drain that water off, pollutants go along with it. The other thing, though, to tell you the truth, is select your brands. The brands that are not produced in the Southern U.S. are cleaner. And there are brands, if you can even search online for the lowest arsenic rices, and you'll see the brands. Like Lundberg is one. It's a good one, and there are many, many other good ones too.
Right. Oh, let's talk about carbs. Because there is this whole movement to restrict carbs, which is like crazy to me. It's one of the biggest macronutrients. I mean, it's a fuel that runs the brain. I mean, wow. Let's start with oatmeal. Talk to me about oatmeal.
Well, oatmeal's terrific. I mean, it is as good as advertised. It is very nutritious. It's got plenty of protein in it. Its selling point, of course, is that it sticks to your ribs. That's because it's got both soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Very filling. The soluble fiber lowers your cholesterol. The effect is not huge, but it will bring your cholesterol down in addition to the fact that you're avoiding cholesterol. The soluble fiber does it. So oats are great. I mean, it's a good low glycemic index, zero saturated fat food, effectively high in protein, great in every way. Perfect way to start your day. And while you're doing it, sprinkle on a little cinnamon. How about some blueberries? And you can make it such a treat.
It is good.
Oh, by the way, for people who do not feel like doing anything in the kitchen, my overnight oats will prevent you from having to spend even 2 minutes in the kitchen. It's very quick. And you can make my overnight oats the night before. You put them in the fridge. You can put like several days worth in there, and you're running out with your coffee in one hand, your overnight oats in the other hand, and you are set.
Oh, it's true. I just do the steel cut oats in the Instant Pot. It's crazy, and I'll make that, and then I'll add a little bit of almond milk, the cinnamon, and you put some, I'll let that cool down, completely cool down, and then I layer it, with some frozen berries, and then put another layer of that, and then put those in jars, and then, as you said, you got a meal to go. And and when my son was living with us, I would make it enough for my husband and myself because he's like, I don't want enough food. And then I would find these things disappearing. And I'm like, hello? Yeah. So I had to start making more pasta. Let's talk pasta. I mean, who does not like pasta? I mean, but what is it? And you say it helps with weight loss, but what?
It does. Pasta, like other carbohydrate-rich foods, has gotten an undeservedly bad reputation. Pasta can fatten you up, depending on what you put on top of it The pasta itself is an innocent bystander, but if you cover it with ground beef sauce, you're going to gain weight. Or a lot of health conscious people make a little goof where they're not using ground beef. That's good, but they are adding so much oil to it that even though it's a healthier type of fat, it is so calorie dense. So we want to be cognizant not just of the weight gain effects of animal products, but also really oily foods. So in the Power Foods diet, there is a recipe that is on my short list, and it's pasta arrabbiata. To a chef, arrabbiata means sort of a little spicy attitude. It is not like a jalapeno pepper. It is just enough to give it some real zing. You'll see it in restaurants if you're a person who eats out all the time. Pasta arrabbiata is great. We've got a just killer recipe for it. Pasta's fine. Pasta's on the good list. It can be angel hair if you prefer it fine. It can be spaghetti. It can be all different things. And of course, pasta's home is Asia.
All right. Gluten. Let's talk gluten. Because so many people are now gluten sensitive. I mean, how come all of a sudden, like people become gluten sensitive? Like never happened before. It kind of like reminds me of the peanuts. Like when did peanuts become a weapon of mass destruction? I mean, like seriously. Should we be worried about this? I mean, what's going on here?
People who should be worried about gluten are people who do have, in fact, an autoimmune reaction to gluten. That's celiac disease. Now, the good news is that that's less than 1% of the population. But those people, I mean, they have to avoid gluten. And so gluten is in wheat, it's in rye, it's in barley, and a couple of their cousins. But that's really it. And they have to avoid it. The good news is that there are plenty of really great grains
Mhm.
that never had gluten in them. Oats don't have gluten. Unless they're in a factory where they're making gluten grains and a little dust comes over. Other than that, the oat does not have gluten. Corn does not have gluten. Rice does not have gluten. There are a million grains that don't have it. So avoiding it is certainly possible. Now, I mentioned less than 1% of people have celiac disease, but gluten-free things have been really marketed as if somehow this is a badge of honor. But I would say maybe 1 in 10 people, they do feel better by avoiding gluten. And if that's you, then avoid it. You don't need gluten, but probably 90% of people who try gluten-free discover that it's a pain in the neck to go gluten-free. I mean, it makes vegan seem really easy, I got to tell you. So if you feel better by avoiding gluten, which you'll discover it in 2 domains, you'll digest food better, or mentally you'll feel clearer. If avoiding gluten helped you in those domains, great. If you tried gluten-free and nothing happened, then bring the gluten back. There is no reason to avoid it.
All right. Thank you. Potatoes. Let's talk potatoes because I absolutely adore them, but it's another food group that people fear, like carbs. Oh my God. Is this a food we should avoid for weight loss or include?
The potato is great. It's nutritious. It's another innocent bystander when it comes to calories. The potato comes out of the oven, and on goes the butter, on goes the sour cream, on goes the cheese, on goes the gravy, and then people blame the potato. It's not the potato. It's all the fatty toppings. And there have been a number of quite famous people who have gone on really high potato diets and lost a whole bunch of weight. The comedians Penn and Teller are kind of famous for the potato thing, a potato diet causing weight loss. And one thing to know about a potato, people blame it for weight problems. It doesn't cause weight problems. It does the opposite. Helps you slim down. But the other thing is it's not just carbohydrate. A potato has a lot of protein in it. Take a large potato, compare it to a large egg. Which one has more protein? Yes, the potato. Yes. Compare a medium potato to a medium egg. Which has more protein? The potato. People, they don't believe that until they look up the numbers for themselves. So we're going to rehabilitate the reputation of the potato.
Oh, absolutely. Because I just absolutely adore potatoes and I could eat them all the time. And I know like Andrew, Spudfit Taylor, he went on a potato diet for over a year. Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
But
yeah.
and I just got
People do great with it.
and I just got to warn you that even like in restaurants now, what they're doing is they're taking the potato and they're injecting it with oil and butter so that as it cooks. Because I remember, and I'm not going to say which restaurant, but I ordered a plain baked potato, right? Just a plain, and I brought my own dressing and I put some of that on the potato. I got so sick, and so did my husband. And I called up and they were like, "Oh yeah, no, we add oil and butter to the potato before while it's cooking." And I'm like, "Oh, that's just so sad."
Yeah, I'm with
Many
you.
levels. Let's talk sea vegetables because a lot of people don't know that we have vegetables that grow below the ocean. So, which is seriously sad because one of the benefits is iodine, which we need for our thyroid, which we talked about in your book, Your Body in Balance. And because it's kind of difficult to get iodine on a plant-based diet. So, how much do we need? And what are some of the types of vegetables that you like?
You only need a trace of iodine. If you're having, let's say you're having iodized salt, maybe about a third of a teaspoon has got you covered. But you may not be getting that because you might be using sea salt or Himalayan salt, which they are not iodized unless it specifies that they've added it. Otherwise, they're not. Um, so you don't need much. But to tell you the truth, treat yourself with the iodine that comes from sea vegetables. So you go to a sushi bar. Skip the fish sushi, but have the cucumber roll or the asparagus roll or the sweet potato roll or the tofu roll or the gourd roll, one of the plant ones. And that yellow or the greenish wrapper, that's nori. And nori is really high in a really healthy form of iodine. And so the iodine goes to your thyroid gland at the base of your neck. Your thyroid gland makes thyroid hormone out of it, and it makes sure that you have a good, vigorous metabolism for burning calories. There is a second seaweed. Nori is the wrapper on a sushi. Wakame are the little strands in your miso soup. And there's a third one that people really don't see very much in the US, but I love it. It's called arame, 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 and where it is just fabulous. August, take a cucumber. Hot day outside, go in your kitchen, slice up the cucumber really thin, put it on a plate, salt it a little bit, put some arame on top. Arame is a seaweed, but it's really delicate, really thin. And you put it on there and it adds just this very slightly contrasting flavor and texture to the cucumber. A little bit of seasoned rice vinegar on there. Just leave it alone. Let the different parts of it get to know each other for 10 minutes. And then it becomes a starter for your meal. And it is so incredibly delicate. It's a cucumber arame salad. You'll see it in the Power Foods diet. The recipes are really Lindsay's and Dustin's, but there are a few that I threw in there because they're ones that other people don't know about and allows you to get that iodine in a really fun way that I never learned about as a kid in Fargo.
Well, me too. My favorite is kombu, and it comes in these very large sheets, and it's from Maine, and they have organic versions, and I get that. And I pull the sheets apart, and then I cut them up into like maybe 2-inch squares. And I never actually liked the flavor, the fishy flavor of seafood. Never have, never want to. And so I add it to my smoothie and I don't taste it, but it's there. And I know because I've had my iodine tested, spot in the middle. So I'm happy with that. You can keep your nori wraps. I'll let you eat those. Have fun. So I'll be sucking my smoothie down with the kombu. So anyway, thank you so much, Dr. Barnard, for your time, your amazing research, insights, your incredible knowledge, and who knew cooking tips? Like seriously, wow, cooking with the doc. And I look forward to learning more about the foods that power your weight loss, and you can find not only these interviews that we're doing for this book, but you can find out other series that we've done together, Your Body in Balance, Power Food for the Brain, and of course, The Cheese Trap. In the next video, we're going to examine foods that are not as healthy as you think and are going to cause weight gain and should be avoided. So thank you so much, Dr. Barnard, for taking the time today.
You bet. Thank you, Jeanne.